For decades, being a Republican meant believing in conservative ideas like limited government, free markets, and American exceptionalism.
America is freedom. Freedom of speech. Freedom of religion.
I'm a proud member of my party, but I'm more than that. I'm an American.
Even though Trump has pursued things that make him seem like an old school Republican, like tax cuts and entitlement reform, he continues to surround himself with advisors who want to tear down the old GOP establishment. So, what does it mean to be a Republican in the age of Trump? And is Trumpism just a phase, or could it be the beginning of a major realignment in American politics? To understand the changes taking place in the Republican Party now, it helps to go back to the last time the party went through a major transformation. The first half of the 20th century, the GOP was more ideologically diverse than it is today. The party had many conservatives, but it also had liberal Republicans who supported things like Social Security, infrastructure spending, and civil rights. It was Eisenhower, a Republican, who forcibly desegregated schools in the South. But in 1964, Arizona Senator Barry Goldwater shocked the political world when he won the Republican nomination by running on an unabashedly conservative platform. If you listen to his acceptance speech now, the rhetoric will feel familiar.
Rather than useful jobs in our country, our people have been offered bureaucratic make-work. Rather than moral leadership, they have been given bread and circuses.
At the time, Goldwater was widely seen as a radical. His victory in the Republican presidential primaries was so controversial that Nelson Rockefeller, a moderate, stood up during the convention and gave a blistering speech denouncing Goldwater and his fellow conservatives.
These are people who have nothing in common with Americanism. The Republican Party must repudiate these people.
But Goldwater's brand of politics prevailed. His book, The Conscience of a Conservative, was a bestseller in the 1960s and influenced a whole generation of Republican leadership, from Ronald Reagan to George W. Bush to Ted Cruz. Goldwater's conservative movement ended up dominating Republican politics for 50 years. Could Trumpism dominate the next 50? So far, the GOP's old guard is entrenched enough that the Trump administration is still pursuing some of its conservative policies, from cutting the corporate tax rate to repealing Obamacare. But the old guard could eventually be replaced as a new generation of mini-Trumps, people in the mold of Steve Bannon and Stephen Miller, rise to positions of prominence in government and media. Some high-profile conservative pundits like Tucker Carlson are already remaking themselves in the image of Trump.
It's been pretty obvious for a while now that the Trump-Russia story is essentially bogus. So why are the other news channels still behaving like this stupid little conspiracy tale is the moral equivalent of the Nuremberg trials?
For now, the main issue they face is that their ideology isn't quite as clear-cut as conservatism. They don't have a best-selling pamphlet to inspire a new generation like Goldwater's, but there is a coherent philosophy that's starting to be built around Trumpism. The Trumpist Republicans want the GOP to be a more populist party. They believe in economic nationalism, meaning America should withdraw from the world stage and put up trade barriers. They oppose Paul Ryan-style fiscal conservatism and condemn costly military interventions like Bush's invasion of Iraq. Many on the left and right want to write off Trump as an anomaly in American politics, and to be fair, it's hard to argue that he's really governed like a populist nationalist so far. But political revolutions take time. In 1964, Goldwater got destroyed, winning only a few southern states. But in the decades that followed, Republicans built on Goldwater's vision. In 1980, Ronald Reagan beat Jimmy Carter by using Goldwater's playbook, and governed based on many of his principles. As we head toward the 2018 midterms, we'll get an early clue if Trumpism is here to stay. Will Republicans run on Trump's America First platform, or return to the conservatism of Goldwater, Reagan, and Bush? This is unprecedented.
Well, I think that that was 7 years ago, folks. That was 7 years ago when Trump was just getting his feet wet. And they were calling it a movement then because it was a movement. This guy had career politicians quitting. He was firing them. He shook it up. But the thing that gets me is it time for the Democrats to rebuild? Is it time for us to go in a different direction? I mean, I see a lot of black people have no interest in joining the Republican Party. It's a very difficult party as a black person to be a part of. They don't seem to pay attention to black people. If you're a black person who has the belief that we good, then it might be the party for you. But they just seem racist. They do. And it's because of a big part of it is brainwashing. A big part of it is being told by people you love and respect that they're racist. And that just being pounded into you. And as clearly as you can see, the other side is just as racist, if not more, then you should be able to snap out of it. But that's just how brainwashing works, I guess, because it's just hard to see the Republicans as anything but just racist as hell. And then if you sit down and look at the facts, they are. But if you look at the facts, the Democrats are just as racist. They take black people's votes by like bullshitting them and lying to them and making them feel that there's going to be hope where there isn't going to be any. And if you ask for tangibles, they build statues and parks and shit. You know, I'd rather have more opportunities than holidays. You know, we had black people in our past who are worthy of holidays and statues and all of that. They get to pick who they make a statue out of and all that stuff. It's just not the way it should be if you're as an important part of this party and a part of their base, a part of their very important base. Kamala Harris's run for the White House was based on the fact that they were going to just get the black vote. And the sad truth is that's exactly what happened. She got the black vote like as if she was giving them something, as if she was favorable to them, you know, and not over the rest of the country. I don't mean it like that, but favorable to them based on their situation and why they're in their situation and willing to pay attention to it. And when she showed that she wasn't, and that there was going to be no exclusive deal for African Americans, which I must admit turned out to be her best strategy, because she still got a high percentage of the black vote. The percentage of the black vote she got didn't hurt her one bit. She was good. So there was no need for her to campaign directly to black people, because she got their vote without campaigning for them. So that's why it's going the way it's going. We have got to hold our vote back. We've got to let them know prior to the election we're holding our vote back and why we're holding our vote back, and not be mad at each other anymore. Even if we did that and we had conditions with Kamala and voted for Kamala and lost like she did, as you can see, she didn't need the black vote to win. But if we had done that and she had lost like she did, at least we on the right side of things. We're voting for somebody who is offering us things that are going to close that wealth gap. That wealth gap is all we need to be talking about right now. There's no reason for us to have been in this country as long as we have been and contributed to it the way we have, and not been included in something that's going to get us on the same line that the only other people, white people, who've been here longer than us, and that's because they brought us here. So they gotta give it up. We ready to be on that line. We are not ready to bring more immigrants or open the borders up to anything until we get done right. So I'm more neutral on that than anything, but I am not in support of immigration until we're taken care of, until I see all the black men who are sleeping on the streets not sleeping on the streets, and some attention being paid to it. I'm going to be looking for some information that I think will help some people snap out of this. And I think information is the only thing that's going to make people stop being pissed off over this election. People acting funny. People don't want to talk, period, because it's awkward, because they talk so much shit before the election, because they hate Trump, dislike Trump, been brainwashed to feel the way they do about Trump so deeply that it was in their mind that there's no way that he could lose. I mean, that he could win. I'm sorry. And it was based on a feeling and not any facts, not any education, not any understanding of the process and what's going on, not any understanding that what Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party tried to pull off was unique. That's not normal to just try to shimmy upside a president who's failing. And then when he does what we all know he's going to do, fail and mentally, and then he tries to slide. That was the party trying to fool us. They knew that Kamala was the best we had. We just didn't know it. That's all. And as long as we're that far away from our party, it needs to be dismantled and remade. And the Congressional Black Caucus needs to be removed. They got to go. And if somebody doesn't agree with that, please tell me why. Because they don't do anything for us. When I say nothing, zero. We don't need them. And that's just that. But understand why the Republican Party is doing what it's doing right now. The way it isn't the Republican Party that most of us have adjusted to. That's why you saw Liz Cheney with Kamala Harris. That's why you see other Republicans quitting or joining Democrats. It's a very difficult time for them as well. But I do believe Trump enjoying a supermajority in the Senate and in the House, and having already set up the Supreme Court in his first term, he's going to be formidable. And I think the best thing that we could do as black people is get away from the Democrats and start to negotiate with the Republicans as an independent entity. And then when the Democrats get on ballots and want our support, they need to negotiate with us depending on the area. You know, some areas of the country require different things and have different populations of us in it. So we need to start negotiating with these people about that kind of stuff on the local and on the national level for our votes. And quit calling ourselves Democrats. We need to call ourselves something else. Independent's fine with me, but something independent of Democrat and Republican, so that we can start to voice our voice through them and with our vote, because we've never used our vote properly. The good thing is we spent 60 years perfecting the art of voting, which is just fantastic. But now we're going to learn that it's a science behind it. All right. It's a goddamn science behind it. So if we ain't doing no more of the art. We got a fucking check mark down like no one else. So we're going to move on to the science of voting. And this is a part of it. But thank you, everybody. We'll move on with another episode soon. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you on the next one.